The galaxy was full of wonders, but it was also full of neglect. For every gleaming city world or bustling trade hub, there were countless relics drifting silently in the void. These relics were massive ships, ancient stations, and forgotten colonies, left to float in space long after the civilizations that built them had disappeared. Most species avoided them. They were dangerous, unpredictable, or simply unimportant. Among these forgotten giants was a ship unlike any other. It was enormous, so large that even from a distance it looked like a small moon. Its hull was scarred and dented from centuries of drifting through asteroid fields, solar winds, and forgotten battles. Yet despite its age and neglect, the ship was not dead. Deep within its core, a faint pulse sent signals into the galaxy, a call for help. The galaxy ignored it. Fleets passed it by without a second glance. Survey drones beeped in confusion and then moved on. No one cared. No one noticed. No one answered, all except for one. Alex Mercer was a human mechanic, known in certain circles as a problem solver. Where others saw broken ships or useless machinery, Alex saw potential. He had a reputation for fixing things that were beyond repair, restoring systems that no one else dared to touch. He had no grand title or official fleet behind him, just a small, rugged ship, a toolkit, and an unshakable curiosity. It was during a routine run to gather salvage in the farthest reaches of the Orion Fringe that Alex first noticed the signal. At first, it was faint, almost like static in his sensors. But then he adjusted the frequencies, and there it was again, a repeating pulse, steady and deliberate. Alex muttered, tapping his console. That's not random interference. Someone or something is sending this on purpose. He traced the signal, letting his ship drift toward the source. The further he traveled, the clearer the readings became. This was no ordinary distress beacon. It was massive, consistent, and oddly intelligent, almost as if it were alive. By the time Alex arrived at the coordinates, the ship loomed before him. He stopped his vessel at a safe distance, staring up at the colossal structure. Its hull reflected the dim light of a distant star, casting long shadows across the void. He could barely comprehend its size. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, longer than 10 city blocks, wider than some small moons, and covered in complex machinery and strange markings. Okay, Alex said to himself, definitely not something I'm supposed to touch, but can I resist? Nope. Ignoring the faint warnings from nearby alien surveillance drones, shapes he could barely detect moving through the emptiness, Alex guided his small craft toward a docking port. The aliens hadn't stopped him. They barely seemed interested. That, he realized, was probably a good thing. Most of the galaxy had grown lazy, too accustomed to ignoring things that didn't immediately matter to them. As he docked, the ship seemed almost to breathe. Its hull pulsed faintly under his hands, and a subtle vibration ran through the docking clamps. Alex frowned, curious. It wasn't mechanical. It wasn't a glitch. It was alive. "All right, old girl," he muttered, stepping into the airlock. "Let's see what you've been hiding all these years." The interior of the ship was enormous, even compared to the massive docking bay Alex had just left. The walls were lined with strange panels that glowed faintly, and conduits ran like veins along the ceiling and floors. The air smelled faintly metallic, but there was something else too, almost like ozone after a storm. The corridors twisted and curved in ways that made Alex feel slightly off balance, as if the ship itself were alive and shifting around him. He began to explore, scanning every panel and doorway he passed. Much of the machinery was offline or damaged. Screens flickered with static, conduits hummed with residual energy, and strange mechanical arms hung uselessly from the walls. It was a wreck, yes, but Alex had never been one to give up easily. He reached the core of the ship, a vast chamber filled with glowing energy nodes and complex machinery. The room pulsed with life. He could feel it in his chest, a subtle rhythm that matched the faint signals he had first detected. "Interesting," Alex whispered, kneeling by a control panel. He ran his hands over the surface, feeling for faults. At first, nothing responded. Then, with a click and a soft hum, one of the panels flared to life. A holographic display appeared, projecting a series of symbols and images. They were fragmented, broken, and almost unintelligible, but there was intelligence behind them. Someone or something was trying to communicate. Alex leaned closer, studying the symbols. "Not a language I know, but maybe it's a code." He pulled out his tools and began carefully interfacing with the system. His fingers worked quickly, making small adjustments, rerouting circuits and bypassing damaged nodes. Slowly, the holograms began to make sense. The ship spoke, not in words but in pulses of light and energy. It conveyed frustration, pain, and hope. It had been abandoned centuries ago during a great war, left to drift because the galaxy feared its power. It wanted to move again, to live, but it could not do so alone. Alex felt a strange mix of awe and determination. This was no ordinary repair job. This was something extraordinary. And yet, he didn't hesitate. Humans were used to doing what others wouldn't. He had no fleet, no army, no advanced alien tech. But he had his hands, his mind, and the stubbornness that made his species survive in countless dangerous environments. He worked through the day and then the night, though outside the stars continued to shine in the void, indifferent. Panel by panel, conduit by conduit, he brought some systems back online. Small lights flickered. Machinery groaned as it moved again. And all the while the ship pulsed in response, as if acknowledging his efforts. By the time Alex paused to catch his breath, a soft glow filled the chamber. The ship's core was alive again, humming steadily, almost rhythmically. And then came the faintest vibration against his hands, like a heartbeat. "Wow," he muttered. "You're alive, really alive." The ship pulsed once more, and this time Alex understood. It trusted him. It had been ignored for centuries, but a human had finally come. A human who cared enough to listen, to act, to restore it. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, unnoticed by everyone else, the tide of destiny began to shift. Because where the galaxy had seen only a dead relic, Alex saw potential. Where the galaxy had ignored a plea for help, a human answered. And in that answer, the first spark of something incredible had begun. The adventure was only beginning. The ship had stories to tell, secrets to reveal, and challenges waiting that no human or alien had ever faced. Alex didn't know it yet, but his life, and perhaps the future of humanity itself, was about to change forever. And somewhere deep inside the giant ship, the faint pulse of hope beat stronger than ever. The colossal ship stirred in response to Alex's presence. Each pulse from its core reverberated through the corridors, a steady rhythm that seemed almost like a heartbeat. The longer Alex stayed, the more he realized that this was not just a machine, it was alive, and it was aware of him. Alex wiped the sweat from his brow and leaned against a console. "All right, big girl, let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes," he muttered, scanning the room. The core was humming now, sending power through conduits that had been dead for centuries. Lights flickered along the walls, illuminating panels and mechanisms that had never been touched by human hands. He started his work methodically. His first task was to stabilize the ship's power systems. Most of the conduits were corroded or broken. Others were jammed with centuries of dust, residue, and small alien organisms that had made the ship their home. Alex carefully cleaned, repaired, and rerouted the circuits, bypassing damaged areas. As he worked, the ship responded. Panels that had been dark for decades lit up with faint energy pulses. The walls hummed softly, like a voice trying to speak in a language he didn't yet understand. Sometimes, he would hear a metallic groan or feel a vibration through the floor that made him pause. It wasn't frightening, it was alive. Hours passed, and Alex began to make progress. He found a control hub that seemed to function as the ship's nervous system. It was a massive structure, covered in alien symbols and glowing filaments. He touched the surface carefully, feeling for patterns, for any signs of how it might work. "Okay, let's see if you'll talk to me," he whispered. His fingers danced across the panels, connecting circuits and rerouting power. A soft glow emanated from the filaments, pulsing in time with the ship's heartbeat. For a moment, Alex felt like the ship was studying him, testing him. Then the first message appeared. It was a series of holographic symbols projected into the air in a faint blue light. Alex stepped back, staring. They weren't words, not in any language he knew, but there was meaning behind them. Patterns repeated, symbols aligned. The ship was trying to communicate. Alex furrowed his brow and tapped at the console. Okay, code maybe, or a logic sequence. All right, human brain, do your thing. Hours became a blur as he worked through the sequences. He tried matching symbols, tracing energy flows, and even improvising tools to interface with the ship systems. The ship responded to each attempt, subtly altering its output. Occasionally, lights would flare, circuits would hum, and Alex would feel the rhythm of the ship's pulse through the floor. By the time the first distant star rose on the horizon outside the ship, Alex had deciphered the basics. The ship was sentient. It was alive in a way that defied most science. Its consciousness was woven into the machinery, into the conduits, into the very structure of the ship. And it had been abandoned for centuries, drifting alone in the void, calling for someone to awaken it. Alex rubbed his eyes and smiled. "Well, you finally have a friend, Giant." The ship's response was subtle at first. The lights in the core pulsed faster. Holographic patterns danced across the room, forming a faint shape, almost like a face or a mask. Alex stepped closer. "You can see me?" he asked, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. The ship pulsed again, this time stronger, almost like a nod. It projected images of vast star systems, battles long ago, fleets of ships destroyed or abandoned. Alex realized the ship was showing him history, memories of a galaxy that had moved on, leaving it behind. "It's been alone for so long," Alex whispered, "but you're not alone anymore." He continued his work, connecting dormant systems, repairing critical conduits, and even improvising repairs using materials from his own ship. It was dangerous, requiring him to crawl through narrow spaces, dodge energy surges, and carefully navigate alien machinery he could barely understand. But every time he succeeded, the ship responded with subtle movements, a pulse here, a glow there, as if acknowledging his skill. As the day turned into night in the distant system, Alex managed to restore the ship's propulsion array partially. Not enough for full-speed travel, but enough to prove the engine still worked. It was a moment of triumph. He stepped back and let out a long breath. I think we're just getting started." Then the first real warning arrived. Alien sensors, faint at first, began scanning the ship. Alex could feel their presence, a distant fleet, curious and cautious. They didn't understand the ship. They only saw a relic of a war long forgotten, a weapon that might be dangerous if it reactivated. Alex frowned. "Great, just what I needed, company." He realized something important. The ship was powerful, potentially dangerous, and yet helpless without guidance. If the aliens discovered its true capabilities before he could bring it fully online, there could be catastrophic consequences. He turned back to the control panels, working faster now. He found the ship's internal map and began exploring areas that were previously inaccessible. Hidden chambers, maintenance bays, energy cores, and storage areas opened before him. Each discovery revealed fragments of knowledge, ancient star maps, lost technology, and mysterious devices whose purposes Alex could only guess. It was like uncovering a buried civilization within a single ship. And every time he repaired or activated a system, the ship pulsed in response, almost as if it were learning from him. Hours later, as Alex rested for a brief moment in one of the restored chambers, the ship made its first sound, not a mechanical noise but a vibration, a low hum that resonated in his chest. The ship was alive, aware, and beginning to trust him fully. "You're going to have to teach me everything," Alex said softly, "and I'm going to have to teach you some human tricks too." As he spoke, the ship projected more images, detailed schematics, energy readings, and even possible destinations. Alex realized the ship held secrets of the galaxy itself. It had traveled further, seen more, and survived longer than any known species. And now it was ready to share its knowledge if he could keep it safe. The distant alien fleet was moving closer, scanning the void for threats. Alex knew time was limited. If the aliens detected the ship's true potential, they wouldn't hesitate to attack. He had to complete the initial repairs, awaken the ship fully, and prepare for whatever came next. With renewed determination, he returned to the control hub. Panels that had once been dead now flickered with life. Conduits glowed, machinery hummed, and the ship's pulse grew stronger, more confident. Alex felt a bond forming, a connection between human and machine, between ingenuity and ancient technology. By the time he paused again, the ship's propulsion system was nearly fully functional, energy systems stabilized, and communication arrays operational. It was no longer a derelict. It was a living entity, capable of movement and thought. And it had chosen a human as its partner, its guide, its friend. Alex looked out through the observation deck at the stars beyond. "You know," he said, "the galaxy ignored you for centuries, but I didn't, and I'm not going to let anyone else hurt you." The ship pulsed in response, stronger than ever, like a heartbeat racing with excitement and relief. Somewhere deep in its core, it recognized the truth. Humans were different. Humans listened. Humans acted. Humans had courage, ingenuity, and a stubborn refusal to give up. And Alex Mercer had proven that today. As the distant alien fleet loomed on the edge of sensors, Alex felt a thrill of anticipation. The adventure was only beginning. The ship was awake, alive, and ready. And with a human at its side, it might just change the galaxy forever. The stars outside the colossal ship's hull seemed calm, but the sensors told a different story. Alien fleets, alerted by the awakening of the giant vessel, were closing in. Alex Mercer glanced at the readings and then back at the ship's glowing core. The pulse of energy was steady, almost like a heartbeat, but now it carried tension, a sense of impending challenge. "This is it," Alex muttered, tightening the straps on his tool belt. "Time to see what humans are really good at." The aliens arrived in the outer system, sleek warships glinting with advanced technology. They had seen the signals, traced the power surges, and now they demanded obedience. Communication arrays transmitted their orders: abandon the ship immediately or face destruction. Alex looked at the holographic display. "They think I'll just give up?" he asked aloud, a grin spreading across his face. "Not today." The ship pulsed in response, almost as if it understood the challenge. Its energy flowed through the conduits, humming in anticipation. Alex had become more than a mechanic. He was now the ship's pilot, strategist, and protector. The first wave of alien ships approached cautiously, scanning for weaknesses. Alex moved quickly, rerouting power through the ship's ancient systems. Lights flickered along the hull, and dormant energy cannons sparked to life. The aliens paused, clearly surprised to see the derelict ship respond with active defenses. Alex leaned over the console, hands flying over controls. "Okay, let's give them a little show. They think they know what's out here. Let's prove them wrong." He activated the first set of energy conduits, directing power to defensive shields that flickered around the hull. The shields weren't perfect. They were ancient and partially damaged, but they could absorb enough energy to deflect initial attacks. The aliens fired, beams of energy cutting through space, striking the hull. Sparks flew, panels cracked, and the entire ship shuddered. But the shields held, absorbing the brunt of the assault. Alex gritted his teeth, adjusting the power flow, rerouting energy, and making split-second calculations. "You see that?" he said almost to himself. This is what humans do: improvise, adapt, survive. The ship pulsed with energy, almost responding to his words. Ancient drones hidden in maintenance bays activated, moving like tiny soldiers through the corridors. They repaired damaged conduits, reinforced critical areas, and prepared countermeasures. Alex had no instructions from manuals or protocols. He was improvising, thinking like a human, reacting to the moment. The alien commanders were confused. This was not a mindless machine. This was something alive, coordinated, and unpredictable. Their strategies, honed over centuries of war, began to fail. Every maneuver they made was countered in unexpected ways. The humans and their newfound partner were rewriting the rules. Alex's grin widened. They have no idea how humans fight. He activated a set of energy pulsars, ancient weapons buried in the hull. They weren't designed for modern combat, but Alex had rerouted their energy, turning them into powerful beams capable of disabling enemy sensors. The aliens' long-range scans flickered and failed, leaving them blind to the ship's movements. He then used the ship's internal systems to create decoys, holographic images of the ship appearing in multiple locations. The aliens fired at empty space, wasting energy and resources. Alex laughed almost joyfully. Classic human trick, works every time. The first wave of enemy ships was forced to retreat, regroup, and rethink their strategy. But the threat was far from over. More fleets were on the way, and Alex knew they would return with full force. He took a deep breath and approached the ship's core. The pulse of energy was strong, vibrant, and responsive. The ship itself seemed to recognize Alex's intelligence, his courage, and his ingenuity. It had waited centuries for someone like him, someone who could awaken its full potential. "All right," he said, touching the glowing panels. "We're going to need more than shields and decoys. Let's show them what humans and giants together can do." Using the ship's energy systems, Alex began linking the propulsion cores to the defensive mechanisms. It was dangerous. Too much power in the wrong place could overload the entire system. But Alex trusted his instincts, trusting the rhythm of the ship. Slowly, carefully, he synchronized energy flows. The ship responded, pulsing in harmony with his movements. Then came the moment of truth. Alex activated a set of dormant weapons designed centuries ago for battles the galaxy had long forgotten. Massive energy cannons hummed to life, their barrels glowing with raw power. The ship shuddered as it drew energy from its core, but Alex held steady, guiding the flow with precision. The alien fleets hesitated. No species had ever seen a derelict ship fight with such precision, creativity, and unexpected strategy. Alex, small in comparison to the massive vessel, moved like a maestro, orchestrating the ship's systems with human intuition and daring. He fired the first salvo, not to destroy, but to disable. Beams of energy struck enemy ships, sensors, engines, and communications arrays, crippling them without unnecessary destruction. The aliens were forced to retreat once more, and this time they hesitated longer, unsure of what the human had unleashed. The ship pulsed in acknowledgement, almost like a nod of gratitude. Alex smiled, wiping sweat from his brow. "See, told you humans were something else." For a moment the tension eased. The immediate threat had passed, but Alex knew the galaxy would not remain silent. Word of the awakened giant would spread quickly, and not all who came would be curious. They would be fearful, greedy, or hostile. He took a moment to explore deeper sections of the ship, discovering hidden chambers filled with maps, star charts, and artifacts from civilizations long lost. The ship held knowledge that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. And it had chosen him, a human, as its guide and protector. "Looks like it's just you and me, old girl," Alex said softly, running his hand along the glowing hull. "We've got a lot of work to do." The ship pulsed stronger, and for the first time Alex felt a deep connection. not just to the machine but to something greater. Humans were small, fragile, and often underestimated, but together they could face challenges no one else could. And now, with the galaxy watching, Alex and the ship were ready. The aliens would return. That was certain. But what they didn't understand was that human ingenuity was not just a tool, it was a weapon. A force of creativity, courage, and unpredictability that no algorithm, no fleet, and no weapon could easily counter. Alex smiled, feeling a surge of determination. "Bring it on," he whispered. The adventure was far from over. The galaxy might have ignored the giant for centuries, but now it had awakened, and a human stood at its side, ready to prove that courage, intelligence, and determination were forces the universe could never fully ignore. For the first time in centuries, the ship moved under its own power, slowly at first, then with more confidence. And Alex realized something incredible. They weren't just surviving, they were ready to fight, to explore, and to change the galaxy forever. The stars outside shimmered, distant but full of possibility. Alex Mercer looked at the pulsing core, feeling a bond stronger than any technology could explain. Humans had always been underestimated, dismissed, and overlooked. But here now, he was living proof that humanity could stand against any challenge, overcome any odds, and awaken giants thought lost to time. And as the alien fleets regrouped in the distance, unsure of how to approach the awakened behemoth, Alex knew one thing for certain. The galaxy was about to learn something very important about humans. They were clever, they were brave, and they were unstoppable when they refused to give up. The giant ship pulsed once more, stronger than ever, ready to follow its human partner into whatever challenge the stars might throw their way. And Alex Mercer, small but determined, stood ready to lead, not because he had to, but because humans had never been the type to back down from the impossible. The stars outside were cold, distant, and unyielding, but inside the colossal ship, a fire burned brighter than any. Supernova. Alex Mercer stood at the control hub, hands flying across panels as the giant vessel responded to his every command. The pulse of its core was strong, steady, and alive, echoing in rhythm with his own heartbeat. The alien fleets had returned. This time they were not probing or cautious. They were organized, numerous, and fully prepared to strike. Long-range cannons glimmered in the distance, and energy fields shimmered around the attackers' ships. They had seen what the human had done. They understood the threat. Alex took a deep breath, his eyes narrowing. "All right, old girl," he muttered to the ship. "Let's show them why humans don't give up. Let's make this count." The ship pulsed in response, energy coursing through conduits that had been dead for centuries. Its enormous hull glowed faintly as systems awakened fully under Alex's guidance. For the first time, it was not just a relic. It was a living, breathing entity ready for battle. Alex began activating the ship's defensive mechanisms. Shields flared along the edges of the hull, absorbing the initial assault of energy blasts from the alien fleet. Alex rerouted power to the propulsion systems, allowing the ship to move unpredictably. Unlike anything in the galaxy, the vessel could twist, rotate, and glide through space in ways that defied standard physics, or at least alien expectations. The aliens fired again, beams striking the shields with immense force. Panels sparked, and corridors vibrated. But the ship responded intelligently, adjusting its systems, repairing minor damage in real time. And at the center of it all, Alex's human intuition guided every decision. He activated the energy cannons once more, focusing on disabling enemy sensors and communication arrays. Beams of ancient, raw power struck alien ships with precision, leaving their systems confused and malfunctioning. Holographic decoys projected multiple images of the ship, making it impossible for the enemy to target the real vessel. Alex laughed, a triumphant, reckless sound. "You see that? Humans can think 3 steps ahead when the odds are impossible." The aliens regrouped, realizing brute force alone would not win this fight. They began coordinating complex maneuvers, attempting to surround and overwhelm the colossal ship. Alex responded with human creativity. He manipulated the ship's energy cores, creating temporary gravitational pulses that altered trajectories, throwing enemy ships off balance. Ancient drones from the ship's maintenance bays launched countermeasures, disabling smaller attack vessels without lethal force. The battle raged for hours. Space itself seemed alive with energy, flashing lights and explosions. Yet through it all, Alex and the ship moved as one. Every pulse of energy, every adjustment to the shields, every strategic strike demonstrated the ingenuity and courage of humanity. During a brief pause in the fighting, Alex reviewed the ship's ancient star charts and navigational systems. Hidden within them were sectors of the galaxy previously unknown, resources, technologies, and safe passages that could change the balance of power. The ship had been guarding these secrets for centuries, waiting for a species capable of understanding and using them wisely. Alex smiled. Looks like the galaxy isn't ready for what we can do, but maybe it should be. The aliens launched a final, concentrated attack, a wave of energy and firepower meant to overwhelm the colossal ship. Alex's heart pounded as he adjusted every system, rerouted energy, and guided the ship with unmatched skill. The shields flared bright white as beams struck them, the hull groaning under the strain. Then came the critical moment. Alex realized the ship could create a series of controlled energy bursts, linking its propulsion, weapons, and shields in a synchronized strike. It was risky. If he miscalculated, the ship could destabilize or even explode. But humans thrived in risk. Humans thrived when odds were stacked against them. "Here goes everything," Alex whispered. He activated the sequence. The ship pulsed with energy, then surged forward. Beams of raw power erupted from ancient cannons, synchronized perfectly with shields and propulsion. The alien fleet, caught off guard, was thrown into chaos. Ships spun out of control, communications failed, and energy systems overloaded. The aliens scrambled, unable to counter the unprecedented human strategy. In the blink of an eye, the tide turned. The alien forces retreated, their organized fleets broken, their arrogance shattered. Alex's small figure guiding a giant sentient ship had proven the difference between raw power and ingenuity, courage and clever thinking. The battle ended. Silence returned, save for the low hum of the awakened vessel. Alex leaned back against the console, exhausted but exhilarated. "Well, that was fun," he muttered, smiling. "I think they'll think twice before underestimating humans again." The ship pulsed in response, almost like a contented sigh. Alex explored deeper into its systems, discovering ancient archives, blueprints, and historical records. The vessel held knowledge from civilizations long lost, technologies that could propel humanity forward by centuries, and secrets that could reshape interstellar politics. For the first time, Alex understood the full significance of what he had done. The galaxy had ignored this giant for centuries, letting it drift abandoned. But one human had listened. One human had acted. And in doing so, Alex had awakened a force unlike any other, a force that could now change the course of history. He looked out through the observation deck at the stars beyond. The alien fleets were gone, retreating in confusion and fear. The colossal ship moved gracefully, alive and ready for exploration. And Alex realized something profound. Humans were underestimated not because they were weak, but because no one had seen the full extent of their courage, creativity, and resolve. The ship pulsed again, projecting a series of holographic images. Alex studied them carefully. Hidden within were coordinates to uncharted systems, resources for rebuilding civilizations, and technologies that could advance humanity beyond anything the galaxy had seen. The vessel had chosen him not just for skill, but for wisdom, daring, and the human capacity to act when others would hesitate. Alex smiled. "Looks like we've got a lot of work ahead of us, old girl. Let's see what humans and giants can really do together." The ship responded, pulsing brighter than ever, its systems fully awake and synchronized with Alex's commands. Together, they charted a course into the unknown, prepared to explore new worlds, uncover ancient secrets, and defend humanity against any threat. For the first time in centuries, the ship was not alone. And for the first time, humanity had a living, sentient ally of unimaginable power, a giant that had waited for centuries for someone capable of unlocking its potential. As Alex prepared the vessel for its first journey under full control, he reflected on the truth that had been proven once more. Humans could achieve greatness not through sheer power, but through intelligence, courage, and the willingness to act when others would not. And the galaxy, once indifferent, was about to take notice. The colossal ship pulsed, its lights casting shimmering reflections across Alex's determined face. Humans had awakened it. Humans had guided it, and humans would shape the future with it. The adventure was far from over. Stars awaited, civilizations called for help, and secrets of the universe demanded discovery. But with a human at the helm, the impossible was possible. Alex Mercer smiled, gripping the controls. "Let us show them who we are." The ship responded, alive, loyal, and ready. And together, human and giant surged forward into the infinite stars, heralding a new era, one in which humanity's ingenuity, courage, and determination would be felt across the galaxy. No one would ignore them again.